The wind howled low across the wide, empty plains as dusk painted the sky with shades of burning amber. The old wooden porch creaked under the weight of her loneliness. Maeve, the widow everyone in the town of Dry Creek whispered about, stood with her hand gripping the doorknob like a woman preparing for war. Her black dress fluttered around her legs as the evening wind picked up, carrying with it the faint echo of hooves approaching fast. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, praying this wasn't the night she feared would come. But it was. The sound of a single horse slowed at the gate. Boots hit the dusty ground, and the kind of silence followed that only came before trouble. He was here. The dangerous cowboy. The man the sheriff said no one should trust. The man who rode into town with a past heavy enough to drown 10 men. His name was Cole Maddox, and though half the town swore he was trouble, Maeve's heart betrayed her every time his shadow appeared on the horizon. Please. Don't come inside, she whispered to herself before the knock even came. Cole's knuckles rapped against the door once, low, steady, confident. She didn't need to open it to know what he looked like. She could already see him in her mind, tall, broad-shouldered, jaw-dusted with the shadow of a beard, a gun resting easy at his hip. And those eyes, those wild, untamed eyes that looked at her not like a dangerous outlaw, but like a man starved for something pure. Maeve, his deep voice cut through the door like a blade through soft pine. It's cold out here. She shut her eyes tighter, clutching the door. You shouldn't be here, she managed to say, though her voice trembled with something more than fear. You know what folks say about a man like me, he drawled slowly. His voice calm, low, dangerous, and yet somehow gentle. But I ain't here to bring you trouble, widow. I'm here 'cause I can't stay away anymore. Her breath caught in her chest. 2 years ago, her husband had been buried on this same stretch of land, under the old cottonwood tree that stood like a grave marker against the horizon. She'd promised herself she'd never let another man cross this threshold again. But Cole Maddox wasn't like any man she'd ever known. He didn't make promises. He didn't bring flowers. He brought storms. And yet, something in the way he said her name made her soul tremble. Cole. If you come in here, everything changes, she said through the wood. A long silence followed. Then came the sound of him removing his hat, the leather scraping softly against the rough boards of the porch post. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, he whispered. And the air around her grew thick with the weight of his meaning. Maeve's fingers shook as she slowly unlatched the lock. When the door creaked open, the last golden rays of sunlight framed him like a figure carved from grit and fire. His hair was windblown, his coat dusty, but his eyes were fixed only on her. Not the house, not the land, her. The woman who'd tried for 2 years to build a wall of grief around herself. You shouldn't have come, she breathed. And yet, he said with a half-smile, here I am. He stepped closer but didn't cross the line. The threshold between them felt like a river, the kind that could either drown or carry them. She felt her pulse drum in her ears as the evening cicadas hummed, like the world itself was holding its breath. Do you know what happens if I let you in? She asked, voice shaking. Yeah, he replied. You stop pretending you don't feel it too. The way he said it stripped her bare. No man had ever spoken to her like that, like he saw through the Black Widow's veil straight to the fire she'd tried to bury beneath layers of silence. But Maeve had lived through enough loss to know that wanting something dangerous could burn everything to the ground. Cole, they'll come for you, she whispered. The sheriff, the men from town. They won't let you breathe. If they know you're here. His jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. Then let 'em come. I ain't afraid of bullets, but I am afraid of walking away from you again. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The world was cruel to women like her, women who'd already loved and lost. But in that moment, she didn't feel like a widow. She felt like a woman standing on the edge of a choice that would rewrite her life. Cole took one step forward, boots brushing the edge of the door frame. She could smell the earth and gunpowder on him. The scent of a man who'd lived wild and hard. "Say it," he whispered, voice rough. "Say you want me to leave, and I'll ride away. No questions. No turning back." She opened her mouth. The word leave trembled on her tongue but never came out. Instead, a tear slid down her cheek, silent as the night creeping in around them. He saw it. And that was all the answer he needed. He didn't push. He didn't force his way in. Instead, Cole lifted his hand slowly, like a man touching something sacred. His fingers brushed the side of her face, and in that single touch, 2 years of silence cracked like dry earth after the rain. "Your trouble," she whispered, a half-laugh breaking through her tears. "Yeah," he murmured. "But maybe I'm your kind of trouble." Maeve closed her eyes as the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of rain and dust and hope. She could hear the night settling over Dry Creek. The faint barking of a distant dog. The flutter of her own heart finally waking up. And then she stepped back. One small step. Just enough for him to cross the threshold. The sound of his boots hitting the wooden floor felt louder than gunfire. The air shifted. It wasn't just her house anymore. It was their moment. He looked around the small living room. The fire casting a soft golden glow over everything. She felt her breath hitch when his gaze returned to her like a promise. "I can't offer you peace," he said honestly. "I ain't a man who can give you quiet nights and sweet lullabies. But I can give you truth. I can give you a heart that beats only for you." No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not even her late husband. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't gentle. But it was real. Maeve stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of his coat. "You're a fool, Cole Maddox," she said softly. "And so are you, Maeve Collins," he replied, smiling with that dangerous glint that both scared and thrilled her. He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. The kiss that followed wasn't soft. It wasn't polite. It was hungry, raw. Desperate, the kind of kiss that rewrites the rules of what a heart can survive. The storm outside rumbled. Like it was bearing witness to something it had no power to stop. For the first time in 2 years, Maeve let someone hold her like she wasn't made of glass. The night unfolded with the sound of rain tapping against the roof. Cole sat by the fire, hat tossed aside, while Maeve poured 2 glasses of whiskey with hands that didn't shake anymore. For once, she wasn't the widow trapped in yesterday. She was a woman standing in the wild heartbeat of the present. "They'll talk," she said quietly. "Let 'em," he replied. "They'll judge," she added. "They already do," he smirked. "And they'll come for you." He lifted his glass, eyes locked on hers. "Then they'll have to go through me first." It wasn't a fairy tale. Maeve knew darkness didn't just vanish because love walked through the door. The world outside still had teeth. But inside this small house, with the fire crackling and the storm howling beyond the window, she felt something she thought she'd buried with her husband, hope. And maybe hope was dangerous too. But so was living without it. As Cole's arm wrapped around her shoulders, she let herself lean in. Just a little. Just enough. For the first time, she didn't whisper, "Don't come inside." She whispered something far braver. "Stay." The night stretched on, their silences speaking louder than words. 2 broken souls, bound not by perfection but by fire. Sitting under one roof with the storm as their witness. And out there in the darkness, the world might still be cruel. But in here, in this fragile, wild moment, they had something the world couldn't touch. And sometimes, that was enough to change everything. So, if you felt the heat of this story, if your heart beat a little faster, don't let the storm outside win. Subscribe now to our channel, where stories like this light up your nights and remind you that love, no matter how dangerous, can still find its way home. The morning sun spilled through the window, casting gold on their tangled shadows. Maeve stirred in his arms, no longer the grieving widow but a woman reborn. Cole's whisper brushed her ear. Ain't leavin'. Fear and hope warred in her chest, but her hand found his. Outside, the world waited to judge. Inside, love had already claimed the fight.